Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Sonic from SEGADriven.com, and welcome back to our Sonic Amateur Games Expo 2022 coverage. In this video we're taking a look at another Sonic 2 remake, developed by JustJohn43. Now, the goal of this is to reimagine Sonic 2, the 8-bit version, as a sort of modernised 16-bit style, almost Sonic Mania-esque remake, but with these sort of like hand-drawn graphics. It's an interesting idea. I think it maybe is reaching a little too high. And no offence to the developer, because I think, you know, it's important to have ideas and like really go for it and try and achieve as much as you can. But I think this is a little unfocused, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. I think it's trying to do a little bit too much. I think it probably just needed to go, how about Sonic 2 8-bit but looking like a 16-bit game? Because as much as I like the idea of going for a hand-drawn art style, I don't think they lean heavily enough into it. The only things that really look hand-drawn are Sonic and the Badniks and maybe Dr. Robotnik as well. The actual stages themselves, the actual like tile sets, still look like they're just upscaled versions of the 8-bit versions, but with, you know, added gimmicks and more loops and a bigger focus on speed. Whereas the original game was more focused on platforming. And I think that's a bit of a detriment, actually. I think this needs to have better stage design. There's a lot of this where I'm playing it and it just feels like I'm watching a little roller coaster section, you know, like going really quickly, going around loops and not really interacting with the game much. I want to be platforming more, to be honest with you. Like, it just feels like there's too much heavy emphasis on speed and roller coaster sections, and just taking control away from the player, which is a bit of a shame. The real appeal of the Master System version is, or the Game Gear version, is that there's a lot of platforming to be done, and it's a really tight little platformer, quite challenging as well. Whereas this feels like it wants to be more of a Sonic Advance 2 game, to be honest with you. It's a lot of speed and a lot of taking control away from the player, and just that sort of visceral, like, thrill ride, just watching it, essentially. Unfortunately, I want to be playing the game more. I want to be interacting with the environment more. I want to explore. I want to platform. And yeah, there's not a lot of that in this, unfortunately. It's more, based on going fast and enjoying these like loops and roller coaster sections. And yeah, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if that's really what Sonic 2 8-bit is about. I think this kind of misses the point a little bit. Which is a shame. And yeah, I kind of want them to lean heavier into the hand-drawn look. I want the actual like tile sets to look hand-drawn as well, not just this upscaled, almost like smoothed. Have you ever played a game on an emulator and used the smoothing effect? Well, that's what a lot of the actual stage assets look like in this, and I think it's a bit ugly, unfortunately. I kind of want more of the hand-drawn look that they're going for with the sprites, because I think that's more effective. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I just think it's a little bit all over the shop, this. It doesn't really understand what it wants to be. It's throwing a little bit, throwing too many ideas at the wall and not having a lot of them stick, unfortunately. I think it needs to tighten its focus a bit to be really entertaining. But I did play this for a long time, actually. I did get quite engrossed with it. There's a few points where I felt like the design really fell down. There's a section in Sky High where it wants you to do this back and forth grinding bit and react very quickly to gaps in the rails. And if you don't, then you fall right back to the start and have to do it all over again. And it's very frustrating, unfortunately. I found that whole sequence to be quite annoying, and I think I'd like the warning, you know, like the here's a gap is coming up little signs to be a little bit closer to the actual gaps, so that I, you know, react accordingly. Because they're so, like, behind the pit that you're supposed to jump over, you often jump too early and just fall down, and you have to redo the whole section again, and it's just frustrating, unfortunately. There was another section in Sky High as well, where you're often caught in, like, a loop, and the idea is you need to try and figure out how to break out of the loop so that you can progress further, and it's quite frustrating, because you're often just sort of playing the sequence, trying to figure out where the break in the sequence is, and then, you know, going for it, essentially. So you often have to play through the sequence a couple of times before you find the break in the loop. And it feels like it's wasting your time as a player, which is a bit annoying. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame. Like, I like what they're trying to go for, but the execution just feels like, unfortunately, I'm having my time wasted. Yeah, there's the makings of a cool project here, but I feel like it's very unfocused and a little bit unfair. And yeah, I genuinely feel like some of the later stage design ideas very much feel like they're wasting your time. Not a great thing to feel a game is doing, unfortunately. I really didn't feel like I wanted to explore much further beyond Aqua Lake Zone, which thankfully was the last act in the demo. But at that point I was having my patience tested quite a bit, and I really didn't want to play for much longer. So yeah, that's a real shame. It's not quite nailing the stage design at the moment. So if that could be tightened up, a little bit more focus on platforming, and maybe a more unified art style for the next version, I would like to see that in the next release, and I think that could really help save this. But as it stands, at the moment, a little bit unfocused, and unfortunately a little bit tedious when it comes to some of the stage designs. Bit of a shame, but yeah, room for improvement, and I'd like to see where this goes in the next release.